I own Trompo, and I am the Luis Silvera. That was like the best I had. So, I started Trompo. I guess we're going backyard to brick and mortar. So, I started in my backyard, spring break of 2014. There was a Pacquiao fight, and I was done working in a cubicle. So, or at least I thought I was. And we decided, a cousin of mine and I decided to make some tacos and invite everybody, and if they liked it, then tell them to come back the next week so we could charge them for the free tacos they had today. And that's pretty much how we got started. We did every Friday for spring and summer of 2014. And when we first started, there were about 80 people in the backyard on Friday evenings. 65, 70 of those were family. So we weren't selling a whole lot, but little by little, people kind of got wind of the little speakeasy thing that was happening that you could only, we didn't really post it anywhere. It was kind of like a word of mouth thing because I was afraid to get shut down by the city. So we started with just like word of mouth, but at the time, my ex and I had a little homeschool Montessori program out of my house. So on Friday evenings when the school was being let out, I was like lugging the trompo machine and stuff into the backyard. And you know, parents being parents, they'd be like, so what do you got going on here? And I'd be like, no, nothing, just a family gathering. Very quickly they wised up to the fact that there was illegal operation happening in the backyard. And they started to kind of like come and check it out and let people know. And before I knew it, there were people coming in to my backyard, and I'm a blogger for this, or I write for that, just showing us love and asking us if we were, when I say us, I mean the royal us, if we were, interested in pursuing a brick and mortar or something like that. I'd already looked into that. I talked to Good Space. I talked to a couple of people, and they wanted both my kidneys, and it was as being a completely ignorant human being, I had no idea that what a personal guarantee was until they break it down to you. And of course, they don't tell you that there are certain legal things that mean that they can't literally arrest you if you don't make your lease. But when they first tell you, it's like, you're gonna have to do this gigantic amount of money, and then, you start your business, and then you also have a personal guarantee. And by the way, if you don't make it, you're on the hook for another $250,000. And I make $15,000 a year. I don't, but this is really big, very intimidating. So they made it very, very easy for me to say, I have a backyard, I have a house, I have food. Let's just see who shows up and who will actually like this thing. And then 2015, Jim Lake Company reached out to me and said, we have this really cool little space in Jefferson Tower. We'd love for you to come check it out. And we started talks, and we were supposed to be next door to rest in peace, Small Brew Pub. Yeah, I share their sentiment. We were working on things there, but we couldn't get things going on Jefferson, which was really the spot that I thought was ideal for Trompo's image and what I wanted out of the Taqueria, like being just on the cusp of Bishop Arts, gentrified, but not all the way. So it was really cool. I was really excited. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and I actually, because it didn't work out and I put all my money into it and all that, I was going to shut it down. I was going to move to Mexico because I spent half of my time as a kid growing up, I spent half my time in Mexico. So I was like, well, I sold tacos to a bunch of gringos, I can sell them to Mexicans. So I was going to go kind of regroup and see what was going on there. But, the neighborhood just stepped in for me. I told close friends that I was leaving, and until I kind of regrouped and figured everything out. And a friend of mine was like, why don't you do like one more last pop-up just to say goodbye? Blues Bandits is happening this weekend. Just sell tacos so you can take a little bit extra money to Mexico. And I was like, okay, whatever, we'll do that. And that night, Edwin Cavanis from the Kessler Theater was like, so I hear you're leaving. I have a kitchen. Would you mind popping up tomorrow? And I'm like, dude, I'm like leaving on Tuesday. But sure, I didn't think anything of it. And he had me pop up, and while I was there, he offered me the kitchen, didn't charge me a dime, said stay as long as you want. I understand how things can happen here in this city with permits and buildings and all that. So so I did that. This was like October of 2015, and I found a location and everything. And so from the time that I started at Edwin's place in the Kessler until April Fools of 2016, when I got my brick and mortar on Singleton, they let me run my taco operation out of there, and we were literally selling to people out out the back door, because the Kessler would only sell to people in their bar, and you could only go into their bar if you have a ticket. It was a little thing. So we had to text me and I'll get you 15, 20 tacos out the back, at the side door. Nobody here from the Kessler tonight, good. So that is like the quick lead up to the backyard, from the backyard to the brick and mortar. We officially opened April 1st of 2016 on Singleton. And then shortly after that, Bon Appetit happened in August of that year, and Trompo got Taco of the Year, and we also were named one of the 50 best restaurants in the US, to much, much, much controversy, because it was the first time that they were being more inclusive. So not so much looking at white tablecloth and fine dining, but looking at the grander scope of what restaurant tourism is, And it was great. It was great for us. There was also a big fight in the world of tacos, because prior to Trompo getting Taco of the Year, and prior to us having that other nomination, the Al Pastor taco was not really known in the U.S. So in fall of 2016, when we got that, I was gifted the opportunity of introducing the Trompo taco, the Al Pastor taco, to the national stage, to America. And my style is Trompo, which is Northern Mexican. It's a little bit more, it's newer. It's from the 80s. The original is from the 40s in Central Mexico, Al Pastor taco. So they named us Taco of the Year, Al Pastor taco from Trompo. And all of the taco people had a field day with it. And they had, they wanted me to give them a quote and join the fight and the revolution. And I'm like, guys, we just got on stage. I can't do this. So I'm not wearing it today, but I actually had a shirt made that was El Señor es mi pastor, which is, he is my shepherd, but it's also calm down, guys. It's a taco. All of those little things gave me the opportunity to stay relevant and to give people a little bit more of an education of what it is that we are doing. That's it, I'm done. No, it is. That's the story as a whole. I wanted to kind of get that little thing out, so we can then talk about, the intricacies of things, and the beauties in what I think made us more of a staple here in Oak Cliff, right? There's always going to be authenticity challenge. If whether you grew up somewhere or you have had the experience of something that another person hasn't, is it appreciation? Is it appropriation? Even if it's in your blood, there's always a big to-do about everything, because everybody has an opinion, which is beautiful. Everybody should. So my thing, when I first started, we only had 3 proteins. 2 wraps, right? A corn tortilla or a flour quesadilla, and that was literally it. There are no sides, no desserts, nothing but some salsas. That's all you had. I did that for two reasons. Number one was every time I went, most of the time when I went to eat at any Latin eatery, it's a 15-page menu, and even if I'm from that region, I have no idea what to order. So I can only imagine what somebody who has never had the food, what they're going to feel and how they're going to navigate through something like that. I have a very, very small space with no sit down, with no seating, so I don't want them to linger over a menu, and I also don't want them to linger over my food. Like, I want them to eat and get out. So I should offer them what they need to be eating. So, you know, and then you go to a lot of taquerias and they give you your tacos and a giant clump of cilantro and onion, and I'm like, there's so much food waste that goes into that. So we want to eliminate food waste. We want to eliminate, you know, dead time. So it's like, we're going to put cilantro and onion on everything. And if somebody says they don't want it, they want it on the side, Trompo doesn't do that. We either do it on or off. There's no on the side, because this is how you should be eating the taco, you know. And it's okay if you don't like it. You know, we can take it off if you don't like it, but you don't get to decide later. So that's why we had, you know, a beef, a pork, and a veggie, and then your choice of gluten-free or gluttonous, you know, as a plan. But anyway, so that's how we started, and of course everybody tells you really should do chips and queso, and you should do, and I'm like, thank you so much for your suggestion. Very, very grateful. But that gave people a sense of, they could come to Trompo and they could have literally every single item, every variation on the menu, and not have spent $100. You know, well, pre-COVID, $100 went a long way. But, you know, or you could come and have the exact same thing and hopefully have consistency across the board, because there was not a whole lot to toy around with. So we got that down, and I think everybody mutually appreciated that, especially the people who are prepping it in the kitchen. But then you know, then I would start get, why do you guys do such a greasy tortilla? Why do you guys do this? Why do you guys do that? Which is all, it all makes sense, you know. When you're in a street corner in Mexico, you're posted up for 9 hours and you do not have a refrigerator. Maybe you have ice, but really you don't have time to, you don't spend money on unnecessary things. So you don't do sour cream, you don't do guacamole, you just do whatever it is that's gonna sell and provide for your family, right? Which means that your tortillas are very processed and they're cardboard style, and you have to drench them in lard in order for you to get a nice soft tortilla that will work, which does wonders for drunk tacos. But I was on Singleton, where I didn't want to be out in the dark, so the majority of our business was during the day, and I eat there still to this day. I'm not just a member. I eat there. What is it? I'm not just the owner. I'm also a member. 6-7 days a week I eat at Trompo. Some of it is because I'm busy and I'm just there, but I also love my food. And having a very, very greasy tortilla, you know, times 45 a week is not a great idea. So I wanted to stay true and be authentic, and, you know, give the people what it means to be, you know, Mexican. But I also want to be modern, and I want to evolve, and I want to, you know, show that. I grew up a certain type of way, and I would love for my kids to have that, but it's impossible. They're not gonna have the experience I had. So, like, how do we grow with our generation? And I decided to do to start making our tortillas in-house. You make your tortilla in-house, it's a little thicker. It's a different, completely different beast. So you double it up, then you lose the balance on that. Anyway, that was a very long-winded reason to say that evolving is very, very important in what we do. So we make our tortillas in-house, and we do a single tortilla with no copy or no copia, no double tortilla. You know, all those little things you would think are not that big a deal, but they're actually really important to the eater. The eater feels betrayed if you, for one, if you dismiss them, and two, if it's not like what they picture in their head. So I'd like to think that in the time that I've been with Trompo and the 4 locations that people have followed me along the way, has been because there's a mutual respect of what I do with, what I love. And I never wanted to be the stereotype Mexican that was doing tacos. Like that was the last thing I would ever want to do. So much so that I went and I became a raw food chef because, how far away is that from Lardy, everything pig. So that's the kind of give and take that you have to have. We focus greatly on micro ingredients as well as macro ingredients. So we never use table salt. We only use sea salt. If I can't ship the oregano from Nuevo León, from the place that I'm from, then I can't make my trompo. It's not the same. It just doesn't translate. It's just so much stronger. The aromas, the flavor profile, everything is so much bigger. So there are the little things that I have to focus on that people don't necessarily have to be, all our eggs are organic. It's cool, but make it consistently. Can you do that? That's the big thing. And we all go through the struggles of life since COVID. Many reasons why people can have issues with COVID and all that. For us at Trompo was staffing. Staffing was very challenging. How can you keep a consistent product if you can't keep staff, or if staff just simply doesn't follow what the rules are, of the game here? So that was a big thing, and then a customer says, "Hey man, the stuff's fallen off," and I'm like, no, I get it. Like I'm there with you. Like I tried to eat it and I didn't like it, but I also can't shut my doors. So what do we do here? How do we rectify this? How do we correct this? I still don't know the answer to that. We're working on that, and actually we have a really good crew. I fired everybody last month at night, my night crew. Not proud of that, but it was something that had to be done. And the crew that I started with, so my main prep lady's been with me since day one, 2016, and my tortilla lady, when I finally was like, enough is enough, 2018 is when she started with me. And my kitchen manager's been with me since 2017, and myself. So like we are the team that won't quit. And when we had a little powwow about letting everybody go this past few weeks ago, it was like, all right, so we're all gonna work open to close. We'll alternate, and we all have families and we all have a bunch of responsibilities, but it's also, do you let the brand die? Or do you just, sell a subpar product so that you can make a buck? Well, that's not why I got into this. And we let everybody go, and then people showed up, and we have new staff, and they're like the most beautiful people I've ever worked with. So it's really great. So please go eat at night now. It's really good. So I'd like to think that the reason why Oak Cliff is the staple that it is because of me. It's me. It's my personality, my smile. So any questions on anything? I don't know.
Yeah, let's do some, you open for some Q&A?
Sure,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Luis. Any questions, y'all? Yeah.
The age-old question, I think for tacos, for me, like someone I can say, hey, this place has a great taco, this place has a great taco. If you eat it within 3 minutes from getting it, from being handed to you, right? Curbside, Coke in hand, right? And in today's climate of DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff, right? How do you deal with is the taco gonna travel well and get the same experience?
Honestly, I think we have COVID to thank for people being much more understanding about travel time. I think all of us, including myself, our standards got lowered when it came to eating takeout. having food delivered. We kind of understood we can't go out to eat, we can't sit down and dine in. So we understand that it's going to be a little bit sweatier, a little bit colder, or a little bit, more decomposed, whatever it is that you're consuming. You obviously want, you want to have a taco fresh, right, as soon as it comes out, because it's just all the beauty and everything that should come with the taco. But right now it's like 50% of my sales, so I'm not going to say anything about that. No comment. If you package it, so that's, I didn't want to do styrofoam, which when I first started, everybody was doing styrofoam. It's just what takeout food came in. We were doing Chinese takeout boxes, right? And those worked really well because they seal in the heat really well. But they would also make the tortilla sweat, so then it would be, wet. And we tried that we did that for a good while. It was a good trade-off because it could sit in the box and stay warm for 20, 30 minutes. Then, I switched over to foil and added the wax paper, and so that typically stays well heated. But again, dude, I can't. You're putting me in a really rough spot. You should definitely eat it live, like right. You should go sit down and dine in. But when you're at lunch, you have to, you have to put up a takeout. Like it's just. Yeah. Sorry, that was long-winded. Yes, sir.
When anybody visits us, my son tells them he wants them to have the best burger in town. And he's talking about the sliders at Trompo. So I'm just curious, is there a story behind where the slider came from?
Yeah. My mom's brother, he's had his little puesto in Monterrey in Mexico for 35 years now. And since I was 7, I would get to Mexico, school lets out for whatever holiday on Friday, I'm in Monterrey on Saturday. My parents were like done with us. They had to be back here to work, so they would leave us there. This is the 90s, so $20, which should have lasted you 2 months. But, dude, they sell Coke in a bag, they sell everything. So my money was gone in like 3 days. And then I would borrow money from my uncle who had his restaurant. And he'd let me borrow money, and after about a week and a half, he'd be like, you owe me like whatever, the equivalent of $1 million in my head. And so in order for me to pay him back, I had to work in his restaurant. That started, like I said, when I was 7, washing dishes, and then I spent all of my holidays in Mexico. So when I wasn't traveling throughout Mexico, I was working with him, and his specialty was burgers. It was Califa Burgers in Monterrey. He gave me his recipe. So in Mexico, the typical, or let me rephrase that, in Monterrey, in the pocket where I'm from, it's a patty, avocado, ham, salami, cheese. That's a burger. If it doesn't have those things, it's not a burger, So when I was doing my thing here in Dallas, we were doing the tacos, and people kept asking, like, you should definitely do a burger, you should do a burger. And I'm like, yeah, but if I give you a full-size burger, you're not gonna eat tacos. Like, at the end of the day, somebody asked me, do you guys have rice and beans? I'm like, no, but you can order 2 extra tacos. Like, logic, guys. So that's where the slider came from. I was like, well, but if I make a slider, you can still have a quesadilla with the slider, a couple tacos with the slider. We started by making our own buns in-house, and now we buy them from the bakery across the street, right where we are on Jefferson. But it's that, man. It's just a smashed, patty with my family's recipe, and salami, cheese, and avocado, and a little trompo meat on top, just to make sure that you're feeling this. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank your son for me. Yes, sir.
Luis, can you tell us a little bit more about the Bon Appetit experience and how that affected your business, kind of process maybe leading up to it and after it?
Yeah, for sure. Bon Appetit was a very bittersweet experience, and it opened a ton of doors for Trompo, and it brings a lot of good things. That's it. That's all. I'm just kidding. That's all I want to say. But so Bon Appetit. What happens is I open April of 2016, and then in June I get a phone call from some person who says, "Hey, we took some pictures of your restaurant. We'd like to put it on our online publication. Like, do you mind signing a authorization waiver? What's that thing called? A release?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, dude. Like, you know, bloggers and stuff ask me for that quite often." So I filled that out. I signed it, sent it back, didn't even read it, and that was the end of it. So I thought. End of July, I get an email from the same people, and they're like, "Hey, we actually accidentally sent you the wrong form. Can you please fill out this new one?" And I said, "Okay, cool." So this was literally like July 31st, August 1st, something like that. So this time I actually read like the little fill in the blank section, and it said 50 best US, like Southwest or Southern or something like that. And I like filled it out anyway, sent it in, but in the email I was like, "I think you sent me the wrong one. If you need me to correct it, let me know, because this thing says something about the best US." I don't know what Bon Appetit is. I've like, you know, I know what it is, but there's never, not a chance. So I left it at that, and August 2nd, my cousin and I show up to work, because there was only 3 of us working at the time. We were doing well, but we could manage it. So we show up to work, and there are about 100 people just like lined up outside. And I'm wondering, like, there's a tire shop next door and a muffler shop to my other side. So I'm like, I owe that many people money. I have no idea why they're standing in line, and we're smiling, you know, like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing here?" And I didn't have the guts to ask anybody, like, why are you here, right? Because you're supposed to act like you've been there before. So I was like, "Yeah, very cool." So we walked in the door, and then people started. And I was like, no, we're not. This is like, we're still 30 minutes before opening time. And then somebody that I know came in and was like, "Dude, this is so great. You guys must be so excited." And I'm like, "Excited about what?" Bon Appetit. I'm like, "What the fuck is Sorry, what is Bon Appetit?" Oh, this is what it is. Oh, okay, cool. That's it. And we figured it was gonna boost our sales 5% or something like that. But it didn't. We ended up, like, I worked for for all of August, I was working like 21 hours a day. We could not keep up. Like, we would, sell out in 2 hours and then close down, prep again, reopen, sell out again, close at 6, close at 7, that kind of thing. And it was really great because, I think we sold quite literally 10 times what we were used to selling. Maybe more than that. But then all the other stuff came, and all the regulars not understanding why they couldn't get their food. And then the excitement died down and those people left, and then the regulars could enjoy it again. So, like, I've said that a bunch of times, like, we've been a part of, Trompo has received so much love. It's crazy. I welcome it, but I don't feel like I've earned it. It's probably a millennial thing, but it doesn't matter how many awards you get or how that translates to dollars. Like, for me, it's that Wednesday at 2:00 in the afternoon when a regular comes in, and that you're gonna satisfy their craving. You know that they are dedicating 4 or 5 visits a month to you. And if I can get 100 people to dedicate that kind of time, then I know I can be in business. I love a tourist, and I want their money, but the tourist isn't bringing me consistency and sustainability. So it's really cool to get that little pop in business, but it's especially when they don't give you notice, and they don't, it's that was a tough one. I believe they've changed their way of doing things since then, but and I again loved it, but hated it all the way. Also, like, I would have been okay if I didn't get it, and it wasn't a part of the plan. I didn't have any protections. Like, by the time that happened, August 2nd, by the time that I, like, picked my head up, to breathe, it was mid-September, and I was like, I didn't even register my business name. I don't have a website. And by then everything was taken. So like I have no protection. So I've been operating for all these years with zero legal protections from anything. And anytime I tried to do something, it's like, you can't because so-and-so owns that name. You can't distribute this because of, that's already taken. You can't do this. So, it stunts your growth. And by the time you open your own business, you should have everything in order, right? Next life. Next life. Yeah. Anything else?
There's a new El Paisa going up near my house, and it's exciting to see the chain here in our neck of the woods have another location. As you talk about growth, how are you, and scale, how do you maintain the core values you stated today and still think about what's next and how you might grow your business?
Well, I failed at opening 6 locations, so I know everything not to do. Just put that out there. I tried, so last, middle of COVID, this was only a pilot program, so this is not a failure, luckily. But we opened a location in East Dallas that was supposed to be it was just a 1-year contract that I did with a friend of mine. She had a location she wasn't using, and I wanted to expand outside of Oak Cliff. The place that I grew up hating that I now love is East Dallas.
The one on Gaston.
Yeah, the one on Gaston. Well, the location, the city itself, I love. East Dallas is great, but growing up is like, ugh, East Dallas. It's like San Antonio. We hate San Antonio. And then I find myself going there 4 times a year, and I'm like, actually, I love San Antonio. But we tried it out there, and there was a lot of things that worked, but ultimately, fundamentally, I couldn't keep staff. Right, I couldn't keep staff in Oak Cliff. I couldn't staff East Dallas. Quality was not where it needed to be. I mean, things were really challenging. So for me, that was all a part of actually having the opportunity to try and grow, because before doing that, I was going to take on investors, and I was working on this big plan to expand to 5 locations in 2 years, and this and that and the other, the dream. And opening one location really small, I realized how not ready I was for that. So that set off a series of things for me that I realized I was just, the last 6 years that I had been doing this, I was just doing it to survive, right? And not just personally, but my business. Like Trompo was just surviving. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't distribute anything. I couldn't do a whole lot of things because I have no identity when it comes legally. And so that's why I shut down Christmas Eve of 2021 in Bishop Arts, because I was like, my landlord takes me to, just not a good idea. Like, this is not good, that is not good. Everything in my life really sucks, professionally speaking. Like, this is the worst. How could somebody who has so much love, so much respect in the community, not even know what tomorrow's gonna bring? I could get kicked out of my location tomorrow, and not because I don't pay my bills, but because they have all the control when it comes to the lease. How can you do this? How can you do? So I was like, you know what? I'm doing away with all of it. Trompo is done. And the only way I come back is if I come back on my terms. So, very ceremoniously, I talked to my staff in the beginning of December, and I'm like, you guys all have Christmas off. So we're shutting down on the 24th. If you guys can please help me clean everything out. We're gonna get a U-Haul truck. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And I don't know when we're coming back, or if we're ever coming back. They're all. I survive because my staff is my family. Like, my staff is my rock. Like, they keep me afloat. And they, nobody walked out on me, nobody left early. Everybody showed up to clean the taco shop, and we shut it down. And that transition, that 10-month transition, moving into Jefferson, was probably, it was very difficult. I mean, you know, you lose a ton of money because you're not operating and you lose a bunch of customers. But when we reopened on Jefferson, we reopened with like our hearts in our hands, but also like all of the joy and pride that I'd been missing for years, and that allows you so much, man. If you're not worried about, you know, somebody coming in and you know, sweeping you off your, you know, what, not sweeping you off your feet, that's beautiful. Sweeping, what did you call that?
Cutting you off.
Yeah. Like if you're not worried about that, you can focus on creating. You know, so that's like I just opened, and yesterday we got our liquor license. So you know, that's a huge thing. Like I've been promised a liquor license in 3 locations, and then things don't happen. You know, but so like I finally get to do that. You know, and the specials that we get to work on, and being able to go back to donating to local schools and to doing charitable events and doing all those kind of things that are supposed to be a part of the identity anyway. I wasn't able to do that because I had to focus on just, you know, how can I survive for this month, or how can I do this, how can I do that. So yeah, so like now we come back, and when people ask, how's it going here? I'm like, this is beautiful. I've never experienced this. Like I've been 6 years not knowing what it meant to like really enjoy and love what I do, because I was always just, you know, just fighting. So like now we don't fight. Now we just get to show up, go to work, and like fuck people's palates. You know, like there was 2 minutes. I missed one mic. You got that. Yeah, so that's it.
Well,
Is that it?
let's give Luis another round of applause.